Jake Morrison checked his diving equipment one more time. The small submarine moved slowly through the dark waters of the Pacific Ocean. He was 3 miles below the surface, looking for new types of sea life that no one had found before. Jake loved his job as a marine biologist. He had spent 5 years studying the deep ocean. Today felt special. His instruments showed strange readings from the ocean floor. Something was down there that did not belong. The water outside was black as night. Only his submarine's lights showed him the way. Strange fish swam past his windows. Some had lights on their bodies. Others looked like aliens from movies. Jake's radio crackled with static. "Jake, this is base camp. How are things going down there?" It was his partner, Lisa Carter. She was waiting on the research ship above. "Everything looks good," Jake said into his microphone. "I'm getting some weird readings about 200 feet ahead. Going to check it out." "Be careful down there," Lisa said. "The weather is getting bad up here. We might need to bring you up soon." Jake smiled. Lisa always worried about him. They had dated for 2 years before deciding to stay friends and work partners. She was the best scientist he knew. His submarine moved forward slowly. The ocean floor was covered with mud and rocks. Then Jake saw something that made him stop. There was a perfect circle of light coming from the ground. It was bright blue and about 50 feet wide. "Lisa, are you seeing this on the camera?" Jake asked. "Seeing what?" "Your video feed just went fuzzy," Lisa replied. Her voice sounded far away. Now Jake looked at his instruments. All the numbers were going crazy. His compass spun in circles. The temperature readings made no sense. Something was very wrong. The blue light got brighter. Jake tried to turn his submarine around, but the controls would not work. The steering wheel felt like it was stuck in thick mud. "Lisa, Lisa, can you hear me?" Jake shouted into his radio. Only static came back. Suddenly, Jake felt his submarine being pulled downward. But that was impossible. There was nothing below him but ocean floor. The blue light was now so bright, it hurt his eyes. Jake's submarine passed through what felt like water, but the water was glowing. Everything around him turned blue and white. His instruments stopped working completely. The engine made strange sounds and then went quiet. Then Jake saw something that made his heart stop. He was no longer underwater. His submarine was floating in a huge space filled with air. The walls around him were made of some kind of metal that glowed with soft light. Large shapes moved in the shadows. They were bigger than whales, but moved like they had arms and legs. Jake could not see them clearly, but he knew they were not from Earth. One of the shapes came closer to his submarine. It was tall and thin with gray skin. It had 4 arms and a head that was too big for its body. Large black eyes stared at Jake. Through his submarine's window, the creature moved its arms in patterns. Lights flashed around Jake's submarine. He felt it being lifted up and moved to another part of the huge space. Jake tried to start his engine, but nothing happened. He was trapped inside his submarine, and his submarine was trapped inside this strange place. More creatures appeared. They all looked different from each other. Some were short and covered in fur. Others were tall with skin that changed colors. One looked like it was made of rocks that moved by themselves. They all stared at Jake like he was some kind of animal. In a zoo. The first creature pressed something on its arm. A voice came from somewhere in the walls. The words were in a language Jake had never heard, but somehow he understood them. Specimen collected from planet designation Earth 3. Species. Appears to be semi-intelligent aquatic mammal. Note the primitive breathing apparatus and basic tool usage. Place in habitat zone 7 with other water-dwelling creatures. Jake's blood turned cold. They thought he was just a smart animal. They did not know he was human. They did not know he could think and talk and build spaceships. His submarine was moved again. This time it was taken to a place that looked like a giant fish tank. The water was clean and blue. There were rocks and plants that looked like they came from Earth's oceans. The creatures gently placed his submarine in the water. Jake felt it sink down to the bottom of the tank. He could see the aliens watching him from outside the glass walls. One of them was writing notes on some kind of device. Another was taking pictures. They acted just like scientists studying a new animal they had found. Jake realized he was in some kind of space zoo. These aliens collected creatures from different planets and put them on display. They had taken him by mistake. He knew he had to be smart about this. If he acted too human too quickly, they might hurt him or put him somewhere worse. He needed to learn about these aliens first. He needed to find a way to escape. Jake turned off all the lights in his submarine. He sat very still and watched the aliens watch him. He was no longer just a marine biologist studying sea creatures. Now, he was the creature being studied. But Jake Morrison was much smarter than his captors realized. And he was going to prove it. Lisa Carter stood on the deck of the research ship, staring at the dark ocean. It had been 6 hours since Jake's submarine disappeared. The storm had passed, but there was still no sign of him. "We've searched everywhere," said Captain Bob Wilson. He was an old sailor who had helped scientists for 20 years. "The sonar shows nothing. It's like he just vanished." Lisa wiped tears from her eyes. Jake wouldn't just disappear. Something happened down there. "I saw the readings go crazy, right? Before we lost contact." She called the Coast Guard again. She called the Navy. She even called Jake's brother in California. No one could help. They all said the same thing. The ocean was big, and submarines sometimes had accidents. But Lisa knew Jake better than anyone. He was careful. He was smart. If something bad happened, it was not his fault. Far below the ocean, Jake was learning to survive in his new prison. The aliens had put his submarine in a large tank filled with Earth-like seawater. They watched him through thick glass walls. Jake had figured out that the creatures outside were scientists. They took notes every time he moved. They brought other aliens to look at him like he was a new discovery. The gray alien with 4 arms seemed to be in charge. Jake decided to call him Dr. Gray. Dr. Gray came to watch him 3 times each day. He always brought a device that beeped and flashed lights. Jake learned that his tank was just one of many. Through the walls, he could see other tanks with creatures from different worlds. Some looked like giant butterflies. Others were made of living crystal. One tank held something that looked like a cloud with eyes. But Jake noticed something strange. Some of the creatures in other tanks seemed too smart to be just animals. They built things with the materials in their tanks. They drew pictures on the glass. They tried to communicate. Jake realized that these aliens were not very good at telling which creatures were smart and which were just animals. They had made mistakes before. On his 3rd day in the tank, Jake decided to test something. He took a piece of metal from his submarine and used it to draw numbers in the sand on the tank bottom. He drew 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Dr. Gray noticed right away. He brought other aliens to look. They made excited noises and took many pictures, but they still treated Jake like a clever pet, not like a person who could think. Jake drew more numbers. He drew shapes. He even drew a simple picture of the solar system with Earth marked. But the aliens just thought he was a very smart animal who could copy things. One young alien seemed different from the others. She was smaller than Dr. Gray and had purple skin instead of gray. Jake decided to call her Purple. She watched him more carefully than the others did. When Jake drew his pictures, Purple looked very interested. She pointed at his drawings and seemed to be arguing with Dr. Gray, but Dr. Gray always shook his head and walked away. On his 5th day, Jake made a discovery. There was a small screen near the bottom of his tank. It was part of the system that controlled the water and air. When no aliens were watching, Jake swam down and looked at it closely. The screen had symbols on it that he did not understand. But when he touched it, it responded. Jake was good with computers. He had built many systems for his research. Jake spent hours learning how the alien computer worked. It was different from human computers, but it followed the same basic rules. There were menus and options and settings. He learned that his tank was called Habitat 7. He learned that the aliens called themselves the Zephyrian Collective. He learned that they had zoos on many different worlds. Most importantly, he learned that they had classified him as species 7439, semi-intelligent aquatic mammal from planet Earth 3. That made Jake angry. He was not a mammal. He was not semi-intelligent. He was a human being with a college degree and 5 years of research experience. But being angry would not help him escape. Jake needed to be smart. He started small. He used the computer to adjust the temperature in his tank. Then he changed the lighting. The aliens noticed these changes, but thought their equipment was breaking. Jake also started watching the other tanks more carefully. He was sure that some of the other creatures were as smart as he was. The crystal creature in Tank 3 had arranged its crystals in mathematical patterns. The cloud creature in Tank 12 changed colors in sequences that looked like a language. Jake tried to communicate with them. He flashed his submarine's lights in patterns. He drew pictures that they could see. Slowly, some of them started to respond. The crystal creature flashed lights back at him. The cloud creature changed colors in response to Jake's signals. Even some creatures that looked like plants moved in ways that seemed like communication. Jake realized that this zoo was full of smart creatures that the aliens had stolen from their home worlds. The Zephyrian Collective thought they were saving rare animals, but really they were kidnapping intelligent beings. Purple seemed to notice Jake's communications with the other creatures. She spent more time watching him. She took different notes than the other scientists. One day, Purple came to his tank alone. She touched the glass wall and looked directly at Jake. Then she did something that surprised him. She held up her hand and showed Jake 5 fingers, then 4, then 3, then 2, then 1. Jake's heart raced. She was counting backwards. She was testing him to see if he understood numbers. Jake swam to the glass wall. He held up his own hand and showed 5 fingers, then 4, then 3, then 2, then 1. Purple's large eyes went wide. She looked around to make sure no other aliens were watching. Then she pressed something on her arm device. Words appeared on a screen near Jake's tank. They were in the alien language, but somehow Jake could understand them. Can you really think? Jake grabbed his emergency marker from his submarine. He wrote on the glass in large letters, "Yes, I can think. I am human. Help me." Purple stared at the words for a long time. Then she wrote back, "I believe you, but Dr. Vexthai will not listen. You must prove it to everyone." Jake had found his first ally, but he knew that Purple was taking a big risk by helping him. If the other aliens found out, they might punish her. Jake had to find a way to prove to all the aliens that he was intelligent. And he had to do it before Dr. Vexthai decided to do something worse to him. Time was running out. Jake worked on his plan for 3 days. He had learned more about the alien computer system. He could now control many things in his tank without the aliens knowing. Purple visited him every day. When the other scientists were busy, she told him more about the zoo and the Zephyrian Collective. Dr. Vexthai has run this zoo for 30 years, Purple explained through the communication screen. He thinks he knows everything about which creatures are smart and which are not. He will never admit he made a mistake. "What about the other creatures?" Jake asked. "Are any of them really intelligent?" Purple looked sad. "Many of them. The crystal being in Tank 3 is named Mira. She is from a planet near your sun. Her people build cities with their minds. But we captured her while she was sleeping, so Dr. Vex Thigh thinks she is just a pretty rock." Jake felt sick. How many others? At least 20. Maybe more. Some hide their intelligence because they are scared. Others try to show it, but we do not understand their ways of thinking. That night, Jake made contact with Myra. He flashed. His lights in mathematical patterns. Prime numbers, then the Fibonacci sequence, then pi calculated to 10 decimal places. Myra's crystal body began to glow. She arranged her smaller crystals into the same patterns Jake had shown. Then she created new patterns that were even more complex. Jake felt excited and sad at the same time. Mira was clearly very intelligent, probably smarter than most humans. But she had been trapped in this zoo for who knows how long. Jake reached out to other creatures too. The cloud being in Tank 12 turned out to be a collective consciousness from a gas giant planet. The plant-like creature in Tank 8 was actually a highly evolved tree that could live for thousands of years and store vast amounts of knowledge. By the end of the week, Jake had made contact with 18 intelligent beings. They had all been classified as animals by Dr. Vex Thigh, and his team. Jake shared his plan with them through lights, colors, movements, and the computer system he had learned to hack. The plan was simple but dangerous. During the next maintenance cycle, when the force fields around their tanks were lowered for cleaning, they would all act at the same time. They would show their intelligence in ways that could not be ignored. Purple helped by telling Jake when the maintenance would happen. "Tomorrow at midday," she said. "But Jake, if you do this, there is no going back. Dr. Vexthigh might hurt you." To cover up his mistakes. "I can't stay here forever," Jake replied. "And I can't let the others stay trapped either. We have to try." The next day came quickly. Jake watched as the alien maintenance workers prepared to clean the tanks. The force fields flickered and went down. Jake immediately swam to his computer terminal. He had spent days learning the zoo's entire computer network. Now he put that knowledge to use. First, he turned on all the emergency lights in the facility. Then he opened the communication channels between all the tanks. For the first time, the intelligent creatures could talk to each other directly. Mira arranged her crystals into a complex geometric pattern that projected mathematical equations into the air above her tank. The equations showed advanced physics that the aliens had not discovered yet. The cloud being wrote poetry in the air using controlled gas patterns. The words were in the alien language, criticizing Dr. Vexthigh's methods and demanding freedom. Tree Creature used its roots to tap out complex musical patterns on its tank walls. The music told the story of its civilization and its capture. All around the zoo, creatures began demonstrating intelligence in ways their captors had never seen before. But Jake was not done. He accessed the zoo's external communication system and began broadcasting. He sent out messages on all frequencies, in mathematical languages that any spacefaring civilization would understand. The message was simple. "We are intelligent beings held against our will at Zephyrian Zoo Station 7. We demand immediate release and recognition of our rights." Dr. Vexthigh arrived within minutes, followed by a crowd of alien scientists and security guards. His gray face was dark with anger. "What is happening here?" He shouted at the maintenance workers. "Why are all the systems malfunctioning?" Purple stepped forward. "They are not malfunctioning, Dr. Vexthigh. The creatures are demonstrating their intelligence. Look at what they are doing." Dr. Vexthigh looked around at the displays of intelligence happening in every tank. His forearms shook with rage. "This is impossible. These are animals. Someone has programmed them to do this. Jake swam to the front of his tank. He had connected his submarine's external speakers to the zoo's communication system. When he spoke, his voice came out of speakers throughout the facility. "My name is Jake Morrison," he said in clear galactic standard language. "I am a scientist from the planet Earth. I am not an animal. I am a member of an intelligent species that builds starships and explores space." The alien scientists gasped. Some dropped their devices. "Furthermore," Jake continued, "many of the beings you have imprisoned here are also intelligent. You have been committing crimes against sentient species for years." Dr. Vexthai's face turned purple. "Lies! This human has somehow learned our language and is pretending to be intelligent. Security shut down all the communication systems immediately." But Jake had expected this. He had programmed the computers to resist shutdown commands. He had also done something else. He had activated the zoo's external recording systems and broadcast everything to the Galactic Communication Network. News stations across the galaxy began picking up the story. Video footage of Jake speaking and the other creatures demonstrating their intelligence spread from planet to planet. Within hours, the Zephyrian Collective was receiving angry messages from dozens of worlds. Some threatened war if their citizens were not returned immediately. Jake's broadcast had also reached Earth's deep space monitoring stations. On Earth, Lisa Carter was working late in her lab when she received an impossible message. "Lisa, this is Jake. I know this sounds crazy, but I've been kidnapped by aliens. I'm okay, but I need help. I'm going to keep broadcasting until someone hears me." Lisa dropped her coffee cup. It shattered on the floor, but she didn't notice. Jake was alive, and apparently he was talking to aliens. She immediately called every government agency she could think of. Most didn't believe her, but some did, and those people began making urgent phone calls to very important people. Back at the zoo, Dr. Vexthai was in full panic mode. The story was spreading across the galaxy faster than he could contain it. Other members of the Zephyrian Collective were demanding explanations. "Sir," one of his assistants said nervously, "we're receiving messages from multiple governments. They want their citizens returned immediately." Dr. Vexthai looked at Jake through the tank wall. The human stared back with calm, intelligent eyes. "How did you know our language?" Dr. Vexthai asked. "I learned it by watching you," Jake replied. "Just like I learned your computer systems. Just like I learned that you've been making these mistakes for years. The question is, what are you going to do about it now?" Dr. Vexthai had no good answer. His career was ruined, his zoo was exposed, and the entire galaxy was watching to see what he would do next. But Jake wasn't done fighting. Yet, he had proven that he and the others were intelligent. Now he had to make sure they all got home safely. The next morning brought chaos to the Zephyrian Zoo. News reporters from across the galaxy arrived on ships of every size and shape. The story of the intelligent specimens was the biggest news in years. Jake watched through his tank as alien. Reporters set up cameras and broadcast equipment. Purple stayed close to his tank, protecting him from Dr. Vexthai's increasingly desperate attempts to control the situation. "Dr. Vexthai wants to move you to a private facility," Purple warned Jake. "He says it's for your safety, but I think he wants to hide you until this story goes away." Jake shook his head. "I'm not going anywhere, and neither are the others. We stay here where everyone can see us." Jake had spent the night coordinating with Mira and the other intelligent beings. They had agreed to keep demonstrating their abilities until they were all freed. Some of the creatures had been imprisoned for decades. They deserved justice. That afternoon, everything changed. Jake was teaching Mira how to use the human number system when alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Emergency lights flashed red. The alien workers ran around in panic. Through his tank, Jake could see large ships appearing outside the zoo station. These ships were different from the Zephyrian vessels, sleeker, more advanced, and bearing symbols Jake didn't recognize. Then he heard a voice over the facility's communication system. The voice spoke in perfect English. "This is Admiral Kate Sullivan of Earth Space Command. We are here to retrieve our citizen Jake Morrison and negotiate the release of all wrongfully imprisoned sentient beings." Jake's heart nearly stopped. Earth had spaceships? Earth had found him? Purple looked amazed. "Your people have faster than light travel?" "But Dr. Vexthai said your world was primitive." "My world is full of surprises," Jake said with a grin. Dr. Vexthai's voice came over the intercom, shaky with fear. "This is Dr. Vexthai, director of this facility. We demand that the Earth ships leave immediately. The specimen in question is the property of the Zephyrian Collective." Admiral Sullivan's response was ice cold. "Dr. Vexthai, you have exactly 1 hour to release Jake Morrison and prepare a full report on your illegal activities. If you do not comply, we will consider this an act of war against Earth." Jake had never heard of Admiral Sullivan, but he already liked her. More ships began arriving. Some belonged to the Crystal People, Myra's species. Others came from the gas giant, where the cloud being lived. Word had spread fast, and angry governments were demanding their citizens back. Dr. Vexthai was trapped. He couldn't fight all these ships, and he couldn't hide what he had done. The evidence was being broadcast live across the galaxy, but the old scientist was not ready to give up. He called for an emergency meeting with the Zephyrian Council, the group that controlled all their facilities. Jake watched as 5 important-looking aliens appeared on screens around the zoo. They wore fancy robes and looked very serious. "Council members," Dr. Vexthai said desperately, "this is all a misunderstanding. These creatures may show some intelligence, but they are still primitive compared to us. We are protecting them from themselves." The head council member, an ancient alien with silver skin, looked tired. "Dr. Vexthai, we have reviewed the evidence. We have seen the broadcasts. These beings are clearly intelligent. You have made a serious error." "But sir," Dr. Vexthai protested, "if we admit we were wrong, our entire classification system will be questioned. Dozens of our facilities might be shut down." "Then perhaps they should be," the council member replied. Jake decided it was time to speak for himself. He activated the communication system and addressed the council directly. "Honorable Council members," Jake said, "I understand that Dr. Vexthai made an honest mistake when he captured me. My species does look primitive when we are underwater in diving equipment, but the real problem is bigger than one mistake." The council members leaned forward, listening carefully. "Your classification system is flawed," Jake continued. "You judge intelligence based on your own standards, your own way of thinking. But intelligence comes in many forms. Myra's people think with crystals. The cloud being exists as a group mind. The tree creature processes information over centuries, not seconds." Jake paused, making sure he had their attention. "You need a new system. One that looks for signs of intelligence in all its forms, not just intelligence that looks like yours." Myra's crystal body began to glow. She was projecting new mathematical formulas into the air designs for the exact kind of intelligence detection system that Jake had described. The council members stared at the formulas in amazement. One of them began taking notes. "Furthermore," Jake said, "I propose that any facility holding intelligent beings should have representatives from those species on its staff. No more decisions about us without us." Purple stepped forward. "I volunteer to be the first such representative," she announced. "I have worked with these beings for months. I have seen their intelligence firsthand." Dr. Vexthai turned pale. "Purple, you cannot be serious." Your career will be ruined. My career was already ruined the moment I started helping cover up your mistakes, Purple replied firmly. The head council member nodded slowly. Jake Morrison of Earth, your proposals have merit. We will consider them carefully. But first, we must address the immediate situation. He turned to Dr. Vexthai. Doctor, you are hereby suspended from all duties pending a full investigation. All intelligent beings in this facility will be released immediately to their home governments. Doctor. Vexthai's shoulders slumped in defeat. 30 years of work had crumbled in just 1 week. Jake felt sorry for the old scientist, despite everything. Dr. Vexthai, he said gently, this doesn't have to be the end for you. Help us build a better system. Use your knowledge to prevent future mistakes. Dr. Vexthai looked up with surprise. After everything he had done, the human was offering him a chance at redemption. Over the next few hours, Jake watched as ships from many worlds docked with the zoo station. Families were reunited. Species that had been thought extinct were revealed to be alive and well. Mira's crystal form sang with joy as her people came aboard. The cloud being billowed with happiness as its collective consciousness was reconnected. To its home world, Admiral Sullivan herself came to escort Jake home. She was a stern woman with gray hair and kind eyes. Mr. Morrison, she said as Jake finally left his tank, you've caused quite a stir back on Earth. The whole world is talking about your adventure. Jake looked around at the zoo one last time. Purple was already working with the council members, designing new protocols for identifying intelligent life. Admiral, Jake said, I think this is just the beginning. Earth is about to become very famous in the galaxy. Admiral Sullivan smiled. That's what we're hoping for. Are you ready to go home? Jake nodded. But as he walked toward the Earth ship, he knew that home would never be the same. Neither would the galaxy. The universe had just become a much more interesting place. 6 months later, Jake stood in his new office at the Morrison Institute for Xenobiological Ethics. Through his window, he could see the Pacific Ocean where his adventure had begun. But everything was different now. The world had changed overnight. When Admiral Sullivan brought Jake home, the news that Earth had secret space technology shocked everyone. The government had to admit they had been building starships for 20 years, preparing for the day when humanity would meet alien life. That day had come sooner than anyone expected. Jake's story became the most famous first contact incident in galactic history. Books were written about it. Movies were made. Children across 100 worlds learned about the human who proved that intelligence comes in many forms. But Jake cared more about the real changes his experience had created. The Zephyrian Collective had been completely reorganized. Dr. Vexthai, after months of thinking, had agreed to help design new systems for identifying intelligent life. His years of experience, combined with his guilt over past mistakes, made him a powerful advocate for reform. Purple, now called Dr. Kith Ara in official documents, had become the first alien rights inspector. She traveled from facility to facility, making sure that no intelligent beings were being held as animals. Jake's communication device beeped. A message from Mira appeared on his screen. Jake, the Crystal Council has approved the new intelligence detection protocols. We will begin testing them next month. Thank you for everything you have done. Jake smiled. Mira had become one of his closest friends. Her people's ability to think with living crystal had led to amazing breakthroughs in computer technology. Earth was already benefiting from the partnership. Another message came in, this one from the cloud being. It had taken the name Alex when communicating with humans, though its real name was a complex pattern of gas movements the humans couldn't pronounce. The collective mind sends greetings, Jake Morrison. Our people have voted to establish an embassy on Earth. We are excited to learn from your oceans. Jake had helped Alex's people understand that Earth's atmosphere could support part of their collective consciousness. Soon, the skies above Earth would shimmer with friendly alien thoughts. A knock on his office door interrupted Jake's messages. Lisa Carter entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee and a big smile. The morning news just announced that the Galactic Council has officially invited Earth to join as a full member, she said, handing Jake a cup. President Martinez is giving a speech this afternoon. Jake and Lisa had gotten back together after his return. Nearly losing him had made them both realize how much they meant to each other. Any word from the tree people? Lisa asked. Jake nodded. They're sending a delegation next week. Apparently, they want to share some knowledge about ocean conservation. They've been watching Earth's waters for centuries. The tree creatures had turned out to be some of the oldest and wisest beings in the galaxy. Their capture had been considered a great tragedy by many species. Their freedom had made Jake a hero. To environmentalists across the cosmos, Jake's computer chimed with an urgent message. It was from Dr. Kithara. Jake, we have a situation. We found another facility with questionable specimens. Can you help us evaluate them? Jake sighed. The work was far from over. Hundreds of facilities across the galaxy were being investigated. Many more intelligent beings were being found in captivity. What kind of specimens? Jake typed back. Silicon-based life forms from the Andromeda galaxy. They look like rocks, but they show signs of tool use and communication. The facility director insists they are just unusually organized minerals. Jake laughed. It sounded exactly like the kind of mistake that had gotten him captured in the first place. I'll be there tomorrow, he replied. Lisa raised an eyebrow. Another rescue mission? Looks like it. Want to come along? The ship has an excellent research lab. Lisa grinned. Try to stop me. Jake looked out his window one more time before leaving. A pod of whales was swimming past the institute. For a moment, he wondered if they might be more intelligent than humans realized. After everything he had learned, anything was possible. Earth's first starship, the UES Discovery, was waiting at the orbital station above. It was one of 10 ships that humanity had revealed after Jake's rescue. The government had decided that secrecy was no longer necessary. As Jake and Lisa traveled through space toward the suspected facility, Jake thought about how much his life had changed. 6 months ago, he had been a simple marine biologist studying fish. Now he was a galactic diplomat, working to protect intelligent life throughout the universe. The Discovery arrived at the facility within hours. Jake could see immediately that Dr. Kithara had been right to call him. Through the viewing ports, he saw dozens of rock-like beings arranged in complex geometric patterns. Those patterns, Lisa said, studying her scanner readings. They're not random. They're mathematical sequences. Jake nodded. Definitely intelligent, and probably very advanced. The facility director, a nervous alien with too many eyes, met M at the airlock. Inspector Morrison, I assure you these are just crystalline formations. They show no signs of consciousness. Jake ignored him and approached the containment area. The rock beings had noticed his arrival. As he watched, they rearranged themselves into a new pattern. The pattern looked familiar. Lisa, Jake said excitedly. They're forming the periodic table of elements. Look, that's hydrogen, helium, lithium, ... The rock beings continued their display, showing their knowledge of chemistry, physics, and mathematics. Within an hour, it was clear that they were not only intelligent, but probably more advanced than most spacefaring species. Dr. Kithara arrived with a team of investigators. The facility director was arrested. The rock beings were contacted through mathematical languages and agreed to peaceful first contact with the Galactic Council. Another successful rescue. Another species saved from wrongful imprisonment. As Jake flew home to Earth, he received a message from an unexpected source. Doctor. Vexthai appeared on his communication screen, looking older but more peaceful than Jake remembered. Jake Morrison, the old scientist said, I wanted to thank you again. The work we are doing now, building better systems, helping wrongfully imprisoned beings, it has given my life new meaning. I was so focused on categorizing life that I forgot to respect it. Jake nodded. We all make mistakes, Dr. Vexthai. What matters is that we learn from them. Indeed. I have news that will interest you. The Galactic Council is creating a new organization, the Universal Rights Commission. They want you to lead it. Jake's eyes widened. Me? But I'm just a marine biologist. Dr. Vexthai smiled, the first genuine smile Jake had ever seen from him. You are the being who taught the galaxy that intelligence comes in many forms. You are the being who showed us that our differences make us stronger, not weaker. Who else should lead us? Jake thought about the offer as Earth grew larger in the Discovery's viewports. Leading a galactic organization would mean traveling constantly, being away from home, taking on huge responsibilities. But it would also mean preventing other beings from suffering like Mira had suffered. It would mean making sure that no intelligent creature was ever again mistaken for a simple animal. I'll need to bring my own team, Jake said finally. Of course, Dr. Kithara has already agreed to be your deputy, and I believe Dr. Carter would make an excellent chief scientist. Jake smiled. Then yes, Dr. Vexthai, I accept. As the Discovery landed on Earth, Jake thought about the long journey ahead. The galaxy was huge, with millions of species and countless forms of life. Some would be friendly, others might be hostile. Many would be completely unlike anything humans had ever imagined. But Jake Morrison, the marine biologist who was once mistaken for a primitive sea creature, was ready for the challenge. He had learned that the universe was full of wonders, and he intended to protect every one of them. The boy who had dreamed of exploring Earth's oceans had grown up to become the guardian of an entire galaxy, and his greatest adventures were still ahead of him, dot in his pocket. Jake carried a small crystal that Mira had given him as a farewell gift. It pulsed with gentle light, a reminder that intelligence and friendship could bloom in the most unexpected places. The galaxy had underestimated humanity once. They would not make that mistake again.